Hey dudes, welcome to Splat from the Past, the only 80s themed horror and sci-fi show where things can get totally radical. Now today I will be interviewing an old crush of mine from childhood. You may remember her from the Young and the Restless, and check it out, the short-lived series that Don Adams had back in the mid-80s, Tonya Williams. And I'm going to have her on the show today. Talk about those shows, talk about this film festival that she has every year called Real World Film Festival, where all these mixed ethnicities are coming together and showing their films at her festival. And I think that's great. And also, coming up on the 30th anniversary of A Very Brady Christmas, she was in that special back in 1988. She played Cindy Brady's college roommate. So we're going to talk to her about that as well. And it's going to be pretty cool. Oh, and don't forget, she was also in that really bad but hilarious sci-fi comedy, Spaced Invaders. And so, yeah, here is my interview with Tonya Williams.
Hello.
Hey, Tonya, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
How are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you doing?
I'm great. Did you have a nice Thanksgiving?
I did.
Nice. It's such an honor because I had a crush on you growing up.
Oh, thank you.
Yes. Thank you for taking the time today. I was curious, are you easily offended?
That's a general question.
Sometimes, yeah.
I guess it depends on what, it would be specific to what someone would be saying to me.
Occasionally I drop an F-bomb on the show, and there's been some people, not a whole lot, but some people don't like that sort of thing, so I just wanted to give you a heads up. And I also encourage guests to do the same thing.
Oh, okay, yeah, I'm not a big swearer, but if someone else needs to do it, then they can go ahead.
Awesome. So going back to the beginning, did you know early on that you wanted to be an actress?
No, I think I was already acting as a kid, like just through the kind of personality that I was, but I don't think I considered that like a job thing I was going to do. I'm an only child, so I think you tend to really watch people and sort of be a chameleon where you can turn into who they need you to be, for at any given moment, because as just part of the nature, I think, of a lot of only children.
Mm-hmm. And you're originally from London, but you grew up in Jamaica and then Canada?
Yeah, it's kind of strange because I was born in England because both my parents were Jamaican, but they were going to university there. And then I went to Jamaica when I was 1.5. But we moved back to England when I was 5. So I stayed there till I was 12, and then we moved to Canada when I was 12.
Mm-hmm.
So my time in Jamaica was, even though that's my heritage, I didn't spend as much time as to really know the place.
Are you related to Peter Williams?
No, but I know Peter Williams. But you know what? Maybe we're related as a small island, but I'm not aware that we're related.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know he and his brother Stephen very well.
Yeah, it's a funny coincidence, because both Jamaican, both Canadian-based actors, and around the same age. So I was like, are they related? Maybe cousins?
Yeah, no, not at all. But there's a lot of Caribbean. Most of the black people that you find in Canada do come from Caribbean heritage.
Mm-hmm.
So that's fairly traditional. And Williams, I don't know if there's a more common name than Williams in the Caribbean islands.
Yeah.
In fact, I have a staff person working for me, and her last name's Williams, and I always have to preface this with, we're not related, but her name's Williams, and she's from Trinidad.
Oh, nice. Did you do community theater and plays in school?
No, but I grew up doing ballet and classical piano. So I started ballet when I was about 3 or 4 years old, and piano when I was 5. And so up until the age of 18, was 16, 17, 18, the direction I thought my life would probably take, that I was going to play classical piano. So when your questions are about, becoming an actor or whatever, I did no theater in school. That was not sort of, I don't even think we had theater arts in the high school that I went to, so that was not really the direction. And my father was a judge and my mother was a registered nurse. I did not come from a background of people who talked about acting or a career in acting.
Mm-hmm.
And even though I knew there was this thing called actors, it certainly wasn't something I thought I would want to lend my life to. But I think it was towards the last year of high school, I started to do some modeling for fun because some of my friends were doing it. So, and then when I went to drama, and through that process, I started to meet more people in the industry and doing very small, like TV commercials and small roles. And even though I was doing those things, I still didn't consider it a career that I would do or something. It wasn't until I met someone who was one of my pretty much my first boyfriend, and he was so a theater person,
Mm-hmm.
His dream was to go to England and go to RADA. He was in Shakespeare plays all through his high school, that I started to develop a real understanding of the craft of acting, and then I went to drama school myself. And during that process, absolutely fell in love with what acting really is. And it's different things for different people. And so for me, I love the exploration of a character. Every time I meet someone or see someone or talk to someone, there's a running dialogue always going. It was, even when I was a kid, it's sort of, who is that person, not just who they are on the surface. Why do they do those things? Why do they say those things? What are the other layers underneath them that sort of make this person who I see in front of me? And so that kind of curiosity would have made me want to become an actor, but I could have probably just as easily become a psychologist, a sociologist, a lawyer. A lot of careers have that kind of passion when you're that interested about people and the many levels of people and why they do the things that they do.
So
what motivated me. That's the thing that I loved about acting.
So it started out dancing, music, modeling, and that was just a natural progression into acting.
Yeah, but the things didn't come one step after the other. Like, I'd always done my music. They were kind of all things happening simultaneously. It wasn't like I did one thing and stopped.
Mm-hmm. And where did you go to train for acting?
Ryerson, it's a university in Toronto. They have an amazing drama program.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time when you apply, I think there were like about 4,000 people that apply pretty much every year. And from that, they invite 400 people to actually audition to be in the program. And from that, they choose 40 people to be in the program. So it's a pretty intense and difficult program to get into. And while you're in the program, they continually cut people all the time. So they don't just keep you because you're in the program. So by the end of the first year, you could be down to like 20 people.
Wow, 4-year program?
At the time, it was a 3-year program, but I think it's 4 years now.
I see.
We're talking, this was in the late 70s, early 80s that I was there.
Mm-hmm. And one of your first roles, you got to be on a sitcom with the iconic Don Adams on Check It Out.
Yes, that was fantastic. That was one of the first sitcoms, American sitcoms, to be shot in Canada.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember seeing it on USA Network very vaguely when I was really, really young. And my friend Leslie Donaldson was on the show. She posted a clip from YouTube on Facebook last week. It was hilarious.
Oh, that's so funny. It was a really good show. And I guess it was fun for me because I was a kid that grew up on watching like Get Smart. So yeah. It was an actor who I had watched and seen and really admired the kind of comedic work he did.
I heard he was a guy that wasn't a morning person. He was always cranky in the morning.
I think that pretty much goes for a lot of people in the industry. I don't think that's a unique. In fact, I think it's more unique when you find people in the industry who are morning people, because I'm a morning person, and I find that's very rare. I get up on set and there's like a million people, like from crew to cast, who are like, "Don't talk to me, I'm not a morning person." So I think that's the standard.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely not a morning person.
Yeah, I think it's more unusual when you find morning people.
Yeah. But what I mean though is like he was notoriously like not a morning person. He was just always very cranky in the morning, you know, and yeah, that's one of the things I know about Don Adams.
Right, right.
But it was a lot of fun doing that show.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun because, steady employment in Canada was, at that time, the mid-'80s, that was not normal. And certainly being a black actress in Canada, that was a real rarity. So I felt fortunate on every level, and I learned a lot about, not just about acting in sitcoms, but about how the whole process of sitcoms work from behind the camera as well, and how you shot with 3 camera shooting. I find that very interesting. It's a very different medium.
Mm-hmm. How long was it before you moved to Los Angeles?
It's so funny when you look back over your life. There's a series of things that seem like they're just like 1, 2, 3, and they happen step by step. Mm-hmm. But what had happened was while I was on the sitcom, I had an audition for a Norman Mailer new sitcom that was going to shoot in New York, mm-hmm. called Me and Mrs. C. And I got that sitcom, but then they had to get me out of my agent had to get me out of my contract that I was in Toronto on that show. And while that was going on, NBC really didn't want to wait and it replaced me. And within a 1-week period, I was taken out of the contract in Canada and had lost the gig in New York. So I was unemployed, even though I had like 2 gigs like the week before.
Oh.
So while I was going through that process of just processing my mind on that, I decided to go down to LA, but it's like I arrived in LA, and within a few weeks, the writer's strike that happened in 87.
88, actually.
Months. So I went back to Toronto. So things in your life are they're never happening in this orderly way that when people ask you the questions behind, it's a back and forth. It's things happening at the same time. But yeah, around 87 was when I first made the move to LA, and for the next, I would say, 3 or 4 years, continued to go back and forth doing work in Toronto primarily, and trying to get work in LA and getting mm-hmm. some smaller things in LA.
Yeah, it was actually 88.
88 when? That the strike happened?
Yeah.
I think it might have gone into 88, but I arrived in 87, and I think it started then. Maybe it finally wrapped in 88, because I know I went back to Toronto and then came back in 88 because the strike was finally over.
Yeah, because it was pretty bad during the summer of 88, because people I've talked to shot movies and TV shows that summer, and they said it was just torturous over there in L.A.
Yeah, nothing was happening. It was like the city just shut down. So I thought, well, why am I sitting here?
Yeah. Yeah, they were like, oh, we better shoot in Laurel Canyon because we shoot in Hollywood, it's going to be a riot, you know?
Right. And then there were almost no auditions, so it wasn't really like anything was happening.
Yeah.
But that's just the nature of the beast, you know? You just have to roll with whatever happens.
Mm-hmm. I remember you did a Disney TV movie called The Liberators.
Yeah, and that's so funny because when I first arrived in LA, I auditioned for that within the first couple of weeks and mm-hmm. booked it, and then immediately turned around and they flew us back to Toronto, where we shot there. So
oh, wow.
I've literally only been in LA for a couple of weeks, and it ended up being something that was shot in Canada.
Yeah, this was a Kenneth Johnson production, and it was a big departure for him because he was the master of sci-fi in the 70s and the 80s, and here he is doing this period piece about racial tension and stuff. I think he did a pretty good job with it.
Yeah, it was great because it was had a lot of historical things I didn't know about, so I learned a lot from that. The key thing when I think of that production is an actor actually died on our set.
Oh, really?
He had asthma, and he went to his trailer, like, you know, when we had lunch or whatever, he went to his trailer, and I guess he couldn't find the, what is it that people take? The thing that you inhale, I guess an inhaler.
An inhaler, yeah.
And actually died in his dressing room, but none of us knew this. We were having our lunch, and it wasn't until they called everyone back on set that someone found him dead. So that's the thing I think about when I think of that particular shoot.
Oh, that's sad.
He's very sad, yeah.
Wow. Yeah, and of course, Robert Carradine and Larry B. Scott were both nerds before this.
Right.
They must have been great. I met Robert last year at a horror convention. He's a sweet guy.
Yeah, he was really wonderful. I guess coming from a whole family of working in this industry, you have had to, I think he just take it in stride. It was, part of his life, so he didn't have any, he was great to work with. He didn't have any airs about being on the show or being on the set at all.
Yeah, and I interviewed his niece Callista earlier this year. She was David's daughter, and she's a lot like him in many ways. And she's told me that Robert was actually her favorite uncle.
Oh, yes. He was a very nice guy.
Yeah, very nice guy. And Cynthia Dale was in it. I'm trying to get an interview with her and her sister Jennifer. They're both good actresses. Yeah,
well, I had worked with Cynthia so many times even before that particular show because we were both like actors approximately at the same time coming up in the industry. So I had worked on several different shows with her.
Mm-hmm. You did a 2-part episode of Give Me a Break.
Yeah, that was one of the first sitcoms I did. For some reason, the first year I got here, I did like a bunch of sitcoms because that's where black actors were normally put. And that's where the industry kind of focused you on get into the sitcom industry. So, What's Happening Now was another one I did. Give Me a Break, another one. And it was wonderful working with Nell Carter, another person that I watched as a young person watching her on TV.
Yeah, she was brilliant. She was so funny, so talented.
Yeah.
Good singer. And, yeah, I remember she thinks that you're a Girl Scout in that uniform, and she's like, I'll take 2 boxes of cookies.
Yeah, them ROTC, exactly.
And you did look very cute in that, I have to say.
Thank you. Yeah, it was fun. And I was, it's funny because in this business, sometimes you're already in your mid to late 20s, but you're still playing like you're high school.
Yeah.
That's just how the industry is.
Yeah,
so
you had that baby face about you.
Yes. Yes, I call it fat cheeks, but other people could call it the baby face.
Well, you still have that. I mean, you look exactly like you did 30 years ago today.
Oh, really? Just maybe 40 pounds more, but exactly the same in any other way.
Well, that happens with age.
It totally does. The fact that I want to move less and eat more has something to do with it, too.
Yeah. Now, coming up this month is the 30th anniversary of one of my favorite Christmas specials of all time, A Very Brady Christmas.
Yeah, how wonderful was that show? Another show. These were great shows for me because I was a kid that grew up watching these shows. This was, television at some of its finest, some of these sitcoms that were just really clean and fun for all the family, before TV started turning very dark, and this was just light and fun. And so it was great meeting these characters and being on these shows.
It's funny you say that because 2 years later, they did a revival of the Brady Bunch, and it was very dark.
Yeah, well, TV just started to get, maybe because I've been in the industry for the time frame that I have, I've really been part of the watching of TV and then being in TV and watching it just get just darker and darker and darker. You wonder when it's going to swing up again because sometimes it's just frightening. There's some shows that I find hard to even just watch on TV because I'm scared to even think this kind of thing happens on the planet anywhere.
Oh, I find it difficult to watch a lot of shows in general because they all stink.
Yeah, humor, there's not as much humor anymore. It's like humor has kind of become just sort of insulting or putting other people down. But there was a time where things were just funny. Like, without having to insult anybody, they were just funny.
Well, if it was insulting, it was very irreverent.
Yes, and people, comedy was built out of a lot of people making fun of themselves as opposed to making fun of other people.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm a stand-up comedian, and I make fun of myself, and I make fun of pop culture. I just do that in my act,
right.
But yeah, you got to play Cindy's college roommate, Belinda, in this one scene.
Yes. And I think that was the one character that wasn't the original Cindy.
Yeah.
So she and I kind of, we bonded because we were not part of all the other people where the original people come back.
Yeah.
That character was actually an actress just playing who that person had been.
Jennifer Runyon, she's been on the podcast twice. I love her.
Right.
she's so sweet, and she laughs at the dirtiest jokes I tell her. Yeah, in the movie, she's always wearing that football jersey to bed, and she wears like pantyhose stockings. I asked her if she wears those to bed in real life, and she literally could not stop breathing. She was laughing so hard.
Right.
Yeah, I love how creepy you sounded when you say that her father sounds cute over the phone.
My God, you remember better than I do because I cannot. I think the last time I saw it was when I did it. That was like in, the late 80s?
Yeah.
1990, 1991, something like that.
Oh, if it's on TV during the holidays, you like turn it off?
No, you know what? I haven't actually seen it that it's on TV. I'm sure it's on TV, but it's not like I saw it and then turned it off. It's just I was probably watching. I'm always binge watching something during the holidays. I'm on Netflix usually just binge watching a lot of things.
Yeah, I can't tell you when was the last time I saw it during the holidays. Maybe about 15 years ago, but for like 15 years before that, it was on like every holiday season.
Wow.
Yeah. Your first real movie was Space Invaders.
Yes, that was very funny. It was a total comedy, a spoof, but we had so much fun doing it. It was like a long Halloween night feeling.
Yeah, you were dressed like Lieutenant Uhura in Star Trek. Yeah. And what an interesting cast. You got Douglas Barr, who played Howie on The Fall Guy.
Right.
You got Royal Dano, classic character actor. Patrika Darbo, who's hilarious.
That's amazing you know all these names, because I don't remember any of these names.
and the little girl, Ariana Richards.
Right.
She later did Jurassic Park. And Patrick Reed Johnson directed her again 5 years later in a movie I love called Angus, which is a teen movie. And, yeah.
All I remember is that was a really low-budget movie, and I almost feel like we shot the whole thing on, like, 4 days. Somehow it feels like that.
It's a surprisingly low budget for a Disney movie.
Mm-hmm.
It was a Touchstone movie. Yeah. I remember it used to be on Showtime a lot in the early 90s. And every time they showed previews, they always show the part where Ariana Richards says, "They're not bad, they're just stupid." Yeah, classic. And so then you spent 20 years on The Young and the Restless.
Yes, and it was great. The first 15, I spent 15 years on a full-time contract, and then I left after that, but told them I was happy to do, like, come in once in a while. Mm-hmm. But then my life just started. I was traveling so much, every time they would contact me about coming in, it was I wasn't in town, or it just became more and more difficult. But they had reached out just recently, this March, in fact. But your life just gets so busy with other things that it's hard to just drop in. I know when they called me in March, I thought it was going to be something where I could just come and be like with a group. Like I thought it was going to be like a party scene or a christening or whatever. But then they had all this medical doctor stuff they wanted me to do. And I had to say to them, as much as I would love to do it, being off the show for that long, it's not like I can't just turn up and be in this character that I hadn't been in for like, 8-9 years. It's just too jarring.
Mm-hmm. What made you want to go into soap operas? Because I've talked to a lot of actors, and they tell me it's the fucking most difficult job in acting.
Yeah, all acting to me is difficult on some level because doing live stage performances can be difficult and taxing too. Mm-hmm. But for me, it's different when you're talking to a black actor, especially back then, not so much now. There wasn't a huge amount of opportunity, so it wasn't like you were picking and choosing. You were going to any audition, and every audition that, agents sort of came up to you. You didn't have the luxury of sitting back and saying, oh, let me choose. Do I want to be on nighttime or just movies or just soap operas? You kind of went out and you did the work that was presented to you to do. For me at the time, I was on work visas from Canada. So the opportunity for me to get my green card as an actor was going to be more challenging if I wasn't going to be on a continual show. You couldn't really get them just doing a movie or, being on a few episodic things. You had to be on something continual and show a contract for many years. So that was one of the first reasons I signed up, was with my first 3-year contract, I was able to get a green card from that process. So as much as I have the sort of an art side where I like to think about things, I have a very pragmatic business side too. And looking at the kinds of work that was out there, being on a soap opera, especially when they explained to me, and I don't know if I'm the same as other actors, but I'd actually never watched any soap operas before I started. I'd never heard of The Young and the Restless when I went to the audition, so it was I had no idea what this kind of work was like. But being able to turn up on a daily basis and develop a character like that's right up my alley, because that's what you do in drama school. When people might say it's hard, they may not have worked in repertoire or worked in things. When you are doing one play but rehearsing another play but memorizing lines for yet another play, that's a lot of work too. So it depends what you're used to as an actor. But I love working in daytime, because I love how you get that much time to develop a character. There's not many shows that you can do that over years.
Yeah, you memorize like 50 pages of dialogue a day, and they don't stop.
Luckily, all the 50 pages aren't mine.
Yeah. and they don't stop tape. You have to keep going, or they fire you.
Yeah, but I don't know. And every soap opera is a little different. They stop for us. We have take 1, take 2. We actually have takes, but yeah, the pace is much faster. But I actually like a fast pace, because it can also be boring. I've also been on sets where you just sit there, get hair and makeup, and then you just sit there for like 7 hours waiting for your scene. And then it's so hard to get the energy up to do that scene, because you're just so tired and exhausted from sitting around. And that can be taxing too. I'd rather be doing something than waiting for something.
Yeah. Well, acting is all about waiting, though.
It totally can be. Now, the good thing about soap operas is there's very little waiting. You arrive, you get ready, you get dressed, you're on set, you shoot, you go home. It kind of moves.
Nice. Did you ever work with Barbara Crampton?
Who's Barbara Crampton again?
She was the blonde. She was on there on and off from 87 to 95.
But what character did she play?
Let me look it up here. Let me look that up. Yeah,
I'm like the worst person with names. I mean, like I would forget my own if I probably didn't have it written on an ID, but it's hard to remember, because that might have been a while back, right?
Yeah, she played Leanna.
Oh yes, I did work with her. I know the one you mean now.
Yeah, she's the first.
Yeah, she was kind of a reporter. Person on there. Yeah, she was great. She was very funny.
Yeah,
the character was a little bit over the top, kind of a crazy character.
Yeah, she's a friend of mine. She hasn't been on the podcast, but I've known her for a couple of years. She lives in the Bay Area, where I'm from, and she's a lot of fun, I'll tell you.
Yeah. She's
very, very sweet, very humble, and she's just a good person.
Yeah, I find that you can say that about, really, there are a lot of actors. I mean, the TMZs on TV and the shows, they never want to point out the nice people. They just constantly throw out the people who have done crazy, crazy things. But really, the majority of actors are just sort of easygoing, sweet people who just turn up and just do their job and they go home, which is why you never hear anything about them, because they're not doing anything scandalous. But a lot of these shows, they're so interested in what scandalous people might be doing that people might get the impression that all actors are that way, but it's so not the way.
Yeah, well, they're more grounded than the big, huge stars,
Yeah, but I think they're big, huge stars that are grounded too. That you don't even hear about them. They don't flit around town. They don't live crazy lifestyles. They just, go and do your work. It's not like you aim to be a really big star or aim not to be. You're just doing your work, and wherever that work takes your career, that's almost, in many cases, not something you can control. So if you just become a big star from that, many people are still just living the same sort of life they live. It's just harder for them to walk around because people are always sort of noticing them, but it has changed their personality. People have said to me that they think that people in the industry, like maybe being famous or being something, changes your personality. But I found the people that were not nice people after they became big and famous weren't that nice to begin with.
Yeah.
It just expands who you are already. So you are probably already not a nice person.
Yeah.
It's just on a bigger stage now, and everybody knows that you're not a nice person.
Yeah, that's true. So tell me about Real World Film Festival.
So back in, because I've always gone back and forth between Toronto and Los Angeles, I thought what was really hard was to see that there was, as the decades went on, there was still not a lot of opportunity for people of color in the entertainment industry in front of and behind the cameras. So I would be asked to speak at a lot of different symposiums and things about, opportunities, but I'm only one person, so how much could I really move the needle by myself? So I created an initiative back in 2001, which was Real World Film Festival, and the idea was we were going to be not only playing the works of, but creating professional development, giving exposure and networking opportunities for artists of color across Canada in film, television, and media. So we just finished our 18th year of the festival, and we do a lot of year-round activities as well, and it's just become a really big part of my life. This thing that I started, kind of as an extra thing to my life has now become most of my life. It is a great deal of work, and I think what's hard now is I've been doing it for so long, and because it's my baby and I'm in control of it, it's really hard for me now just to get hired and go do someone else's gig, because I feel like I'm already in charge of this gig over here, and now I have to go and just listen to someone else. I feel like I'm producing and directing a production every year, and it takes like 12 months to make it happen.
Oh yeah, I mean it's a lot of responsibility running a festival. A couple of months ago, I interviewed Denise Bassett, who runs Shriek Fest Horror Festival in Los Angeles, and she does actually 2 a year now. She does one in Los Angeles and one in Florida, and it's a full-time responsibility.
It's a full-time responsibility, so it's always funny when I'm somewhere and people go, "Oh, are you going to be working on an acting thing soon?" I don't even know how to explain. I'm like, when? It's so exhausting what I do now, and making sure I have a small staff and my office in Toronto, even though I'm here in LA. And with the 3-hour difference and everything else that goes on, I barely have time to get sort of anything done in my life as it is. So it's brutal.
How long have you been doing it now?
18 years.
Wow.
So yeah, it's been a while. And you think it would get easier, but it doesn't, because you're constantly, expanding, and the business is constantly changing. You're always finding new things. Like we've expanded our festival even into virtual reality now, because that's become a big part of the industry. So it's like every year there's something more that we have to expand out into.
Wow. And has it grown in popularity?
It has grown in popularity, and because there has not been a real voice for people of color in the entertainment industry, we've also become like the advocate voice. In the way that the NAACP are a voice for people of color here in the States, Real World has kind of become that voice. So we're actually doing, like next week I'll be in Toronto, we're doing quite an important panel on women of color discussing sexual harassment in the entertainment industry. And the room will be 100 women of color, across the board, in front of and behind the cameras. We're doing a whole symposium, so it'll be really exciting. We're going to be doing that next week. So those are the kind of things that I do beyond just showing a festival and screening things.
Oh, that's great. I mean, with everything that's been going on the last year and everything, I think that's something that needs to be talked about more with sexual harassment in the entertainment industry.
And the images in film and television have
Mm-hmm.
not served women of color well. They've been part of the problem as well. The stereotypes of how we perceive or perpetuate about Black women or Latino women or Asian women or South Asian women, these stereotype almost racist, it's almost racism and sexual at the same time that women of color have to deal with, that you would say that white women in the industry dealing with sexual harassment, it's a different kind. So we've not yet really had the conversation about what happens as women of color in the industry, and just the off-colored jokes or that sort of balance between gender and race is something. So as women of color, we not only deal with sexual harassment, we deal with racial harassment too.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like the combination of the two.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just terrible. It's been going on for quite a long time now and stuff.
Exactly.
I just hope it gets better.
Well, it'll get better if those of us who are in the entertainment industry realize that we're part of the problem. And I don't mean part of the problem I mean of the work that we create, those images, those stories, the way we keep putting that content out there. It's shaping the minds of a lot of young men and women into what's acceptable and not acceptable behavior or conversation or comments to people.
Mm-hmm.
So if we don't do that, then it's hard for a young generation. As I said, when I was young, I grew up on those Disney movies and Brady Bunch, and it was a lot more clean fun. And now a lot of young people are watching a lot of twisted, dark stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And we now realize a lot of it has been made by people who were predators and who were not well. But so they themselves, even though that they've now been caught, many of them, and they've been shamed and they're, kicked out of the business, we still have to realize they've spent the last 20, 30 years creating content that has perversed a lot of audience members, young people.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
what is normal and what is not normal in terms of how people interact with each other.
Mm-hmm. My stuff that I do is dark and twisted, but I'm a gentleman and I don't do the creepy gross stuff that a lot of those guys do behind the scenes.
Right, and there's a time and place for everything, because
right.
doing a stand-up comedy routine in a club where people pay a ticket and come in is not the same as me turning on a Saturday morning on television to see even a cartoon or something that's for kids 12 and under that I think it would be inappropriate for young kids to be watching. So it depends where it is and what platform and who your audience is that you're reaching.
Right. I mean, they play Family Guy late at night,
Yeah, but kids, they're going to find that Family Guy thing in the morning unless they can. They're savvier on the computers than we are, so they're going to find stuff.
I know they need to be more restrictive on the computers with kids.
Yeah, they definitely need to be more restrictive. But once you put content out there, especially on the internet or out there anywhere, you have absolutely no control about who's watching it. And I have watched an increase, I would say in the last 15 years, an increase of domestic violence. Violence against women is not accidental to the amount of content that's about violence. Almost every TV show now is about, but whole TV shows from Law and Order and everything is just focused on all this violence against women. That
mm-hmm.
You just watch that every single day. It's amazing how that can seep into your psyche.
Yeah, because they're trying to show the world this happens in the real world, and they're trying to bring awareness to it.
They are, but to a young kid, if you're watching it every single day, that kind of awareness, it's like when you watch stuff on the news about war, it's like you
mm-hmm.
become desensitized to a bomb dropping on a city and killing a bunch of people. You can literally be desensitized by looking at images over a long period of time. They don't make you hypersensitive or more aware to it. They actually numb you out of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when I was a kid, my dad and we used to watch R-rated movies when my mom wasn't home.
Exactly.
Which
has probably been developmental to how you are now.
Yeah, it shaped my sixth sense of humor, But I like to think I turned out just fine.
I'm sure you did.
You know, I mean, I've been through an awful lot. I had a car accident a couple of years ago, and I spent 30 days in a coma.
Oh my God, that is terrible.
Yeah, you know, but like I like to think, you know, I turned out, you know, just fine for the most part, and not.
I'm totally fascinated because I've never met anyone who's actually been in a coma. What is that like when you first come out of it? Does it feel like no time has passed? Does it feel like you thought it was just yesterday and now it's today, and someone tells you it's been 30 days?
It exactly does feel that way.
Wow.
Because how it happened was me and this guy, who I'm no longer friends with, we were coming back from the city of San Francisco after going on a drinking binge, and I blacked out. I cannot remember anything after we got to the third bar that we went to. And allegedly, from what I've been told, that police found out from witnesses who saw the accident and everything was, you know, he fell asleep at the wheel, and I must have been asleep in the passenger seat because I don't remember. And we flipped over. The car flipped over, and we got out okay. My hand was cut up pretty badly. I do know that.
Wow.
I do remember that, and we were fine. But then a car who didn't see us in the middle of the road collided with ours, and the impact hit us, and I got the worst of the injuries.
That is unbelievable. Well, you're just lucky to be alive.
Very lucky.
I mean, because just hearing that whole scenario, you could have been killed from the first thing, let alone the second thing. My God.
Yeah. And, yeah, I mean...
What did you learn from that?
What did I learn from that? I got a lot of confidence in me that I never had before that. You know, I'd been a comedian since 2006, and this was 2015 when this happened, and I was just doing comedy as a hobby. I didn't think I had any talent because people were always telling me, you know, other comedians were telling me that I was terrible and all this stuff, and I didn't have any mentors or friends, so I didn't know how to pursue the business. But then this accident just made me a lot more confident, made me a lot more persistent. You know, I've been doing this podcast for a year now. I've already got 321 guests.
Wow. No, that's really good you learned that. I thought you were going to tell me something simpler, like don't go on a drinking binge with a buddy.
Oh, that too, yes. Don't.
I say if you're going to do a drinking binge, buy a lot of liquor, take it home, lock the doors.
Yes.
So that you can't even open the doors to get out, and then just drink yourself silly inside your own house.
Yes, but make sure you have people with you because it's not good to drink alone.
Yeah, but make sure you all lock yourselves inside so that you're not a danger to anybody else when you get out of the house.
Yeah, unless you run out of booze and you got to go to the liquor store around the corner.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You have to buy it all up front, and then you have to lock and hide the keys. So you can just drink to yourself. You can't go out there and go get more liquor when you're already drunk.
Yeah.
I don't think that would be the lesson to be learned here.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I don't advise anybody to drink, you know, and I can't drink again because if I do, my liver will bleed. I pretty much damaged it.
Oh, my God.
Because it was a couple of years. I was drinking like every day for a couple of years.
Right.
And, yeah, I've been sober since, and, yeah, I got metal in my leg from this whole thing, though, but I got a cane I walk with. I can walk without it when I go up on stage to perform or something, you know.
Right.
But I keep it with me for safety reasons because I want people to know that I have this metal in my leg and I'm not walking slow to be an asshole or anything.
Right.
You know.
People can be very impatient with people who are struggling with some sort of disability.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, especially in today's world.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, but I also got I had to have a stent put in my heart. I had a mild heart attack during it.
Basically lucky you're just alive, period, sounds like.
Yeah, my sternum was crushed. I broke some teeth. My hand, it was a mess.
Wow.
But I'm doing better, you know, and I'm a year in doing this podcast, and I have so many goals I want to accomplish before I'm 40.
Oh, that's really wonderful.
You know, and I have 5 years until I'm 40, so.
Yeah, you're still a young kid.
Yeah. I feel like I'm a lot wiser than I was a few years ago, though.
Yeah, so an experience like that could only make you wiser.
Mm-hmm. Certainly. So, when is the next festival?
That'll be October of this year. I don't even think I took the date. October 2019, and
Of next year, yeah.
yeah, and submissions go up on the. Usually we started in March till June.
Mm-hmm.
So people should go to the website and check out and make sure. You know, it's so funny. I get so many people that just submit, and I don't think they read the guidelines as to what kind of movies we take in. It's so funny to me. I'm like, what about this movie is racially diverse? Where there's no filmmaker, there's no crew, there's no content, there's just nothing.
Yeah. And exactly where is the festival at?
We do it in Toronto, Canada.
In Toronto.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And you get a lot of submissions of just culturally diverse people.
Yeah, but it's interesting that you say that because it's actually racial diversity is a little bit different than cultural diversity because you can be Polish and that's cultural.
Yeah.
But race is a very different thing. So we look for films particularly from filmmakers who are indigenous, who are Black, Asian, South Asian, Middle Eastern, Latino. So there's visible differences is what we're really looking for.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds like your career is still going strong, and you're so busy now. You know.
Yeah, I know I'm gonna swing back around and want to do more acting again, but I think I keep hoping it'll be when I can get real world at the point where I can really step back and know that it can still run strongly. I don't feel it's there yet.
Mm-hmm.
I feel it's still. Sometimes when I step back a little bit and I start seeing it slipping, I rush in again. But I need it to really be a solid festival that just stands on its own. And I think once I know I have a great small team, we get a lot of turnover with our team because we hire a lot of people on contract as opposed to full time. So I think once I get to the stage where I can have a good small full time staff, it'll make a difference.
Nice. Do you have any upcoming projects you want to plug?
No, I wish I did, although I am always looking for, because I want to do more producing of projects too, and possibly projects that either I could be in or projects that I might direct. But I'm very specific about my tastes. I'm interested in historical pieces of information that people might not have even heard about, especially if they're to do with the Caribbean islands or if they're to do with something in Black history that we haven't heard about. In the way that, what's that great movie that was out last year about the three women that worked at NASA, the three Black women? It was a really great movie, but I can't remember the title of it right now. I'm just terrible when it comes to names of people, names of titles. But it was really quite a successful film, but it was interesting to me because I knew nothing about that history. I didn't know these women existed. I didn't know that part of history happened at all. So I'm always searching for those kind of things. I love political thrillers, stories that talk about sort of social justice, environmental issues. I'm more interested in those kind of topics. Not as interested like in movies about gang people or stuff like that. Because there's so much of it, it doesn't interest me that much.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, they're all over the place.
Yeah, or even sci-fi movies that are like something that could be believable. Like, on Stars, they have, is it called Counter? Have you seen it?
Counter? No.
It's really great. But it's something that could be believable, but it's still sci-fi.
Mm-hmm.
It's not total aliens like turning up in your front yard. It's it's more subtle.
Oh.
Counterpart. I think it's just called Counterpart, and it's on Stars.
I'll check it out.
Yeah, you would love it because it's just so interesting. Just imagine that there was a strange, weird portal, like underneath, in a tunnel where there is a duplicate Earth, but that Earth is exactly like your Earth, and there is a person that is exactly you in that part. So it's that kind of a theory.
Nice. Yeah, I write the horror and sci-fi scripts.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like when they get too scary. I can't watch those.
Mine just get the horror ones just get too gross for me
Right,
and
too
stuff.
gory.
Yeah, gory, and I've only written one sci-fi script in recent times and stuff, and it's pretty action packed. It's like a Terminator type of script.
Right.
And stuff.
The historic ones are like the hardest because it has to be someone that just like finds a gem of a little story that no one knew about.
Mm-hmm.
Like 12 Years a Slave was just this little, this book that not many people knew that much about, and then it gets made into this wonderful movie that we all get to appreciate that part of history.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm like the biggest movie buff in the world. I mean, I got a huge collection of movies.
Yeah, I don't necessarily collect them, but I'm an obsessive watcher of film and television.
Mm-hmm. Like, what kind of television do you like?
The things I'm describing. So I watch a lot of small, independent character study movies that I just find really interesting, especially when it's something historical that I go, I knew nothing about this subject. I didn't even know this existed,
Yeah.
I love finding those gems where you can learn something. Or something specific. Remember just a little movie, and I think it was Chris Evans was starring in it. I think that's his name. Where it was this person had invented a needle that they can use in hospitals that retracted into itself so that, because nurses were getting a high, were contracting HIV from injecting patients who had HIV, but the patients were like high on drugs or whatever, and then the needle would stick them. So this whole story was about how impossible it was for them, and it was a drama, how impossible it was for them to get it into the pharmaceutical companies who really wanted to just buy the patent and then kill it, because they weren't about to recreate the way the machinery and everything they had and how they already made needles. They just wanted to get the patent so that they wouldn't have anything competing against. I just find those kind of stories is interesting. They're these little stories, but they impact the lives of those people in tremendous ways, because I can't even remember, the percentage was so high of hospital workers and nurses in particular who were contracting the disease because of this incident, and how this was solvable, but nobody actually wanted to take action and solve it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's pretty fascinating, the stuff that they come out with now. And I'm sure they got, medical consultants.
Exactly. Well, and this was a true story. So this was based on a true story of a nurse that did get it, and it was her godfather, who was an inventor, that invented this. And then the story is also told through the eyes of the lawyer who was trying to, fight the case to stop these pharmaceutical companies from stopping this.
Wow.
Those kind of stories really interest me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you like stuff that's very intelligent.
I like the heady stuff. And you know what I watch a lot of? I just watch Babylon Berlin, so I watch a lot of, on Netflix, German series, but they're all political as well. They have a lot of Scandinavian ones, Yugoslavian ones. I love the kind of heady murder mysteries that are like Wallander.
Mm-hmm.
So I've watched that in the Swedish original one and in the English version one, and those kind of things. I love those kind of things. I watched a lot of Polish television series, Danish movies and television series.
Oh.
So yeah, I watch a lot of stuff.
Oh, I'm sure you can tell. I'm a big fan of Canadian television and film.
Yeah, and we have a lot of great stuff happening up in Canada.
Yeah, I've interviewed a lot of Canadian actors, and they are the nicest people, and they got the greatest stories.
Yes, I believe that.
Mm-hmm. About working.
Canadians, we're a hard-working group.
Yes, they are. You know what I like about them the most is they make movies the same way that they make movies in America, except the scenery is so much better. The Canadian skyline.
Oh, right.
And I mean, I don't really see that much of a difference in terms of storytelling, but what I do see is a lot of talent out there.
Yes, there really is a lot of talent. It is kind of we're kind of a bridge between the way the British tell stories and the way the Americans tell stories. A lot of Canada. And it's funny when someone says Canada, because of course I'm always thinking English side Canada.
Yeah.
The French side Canada is so very different than the English side Canada. It's like two different countries in the same, and they have much more in common with France than we do on the English side of Canada.
Oh yeah, I did get to interview a French-Canadian actress earlier this year, and yeah, I could see the difference.
Yeah, just, the culture is just so very different, even though we're one country. But I guess it's no different than East Coast, West Coast of the United States. We talk about the cultural differences all the time.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, Tonya, I tell you, this has been so much fun. I'm glad we got to do this.
Thank you. Thank you for asking me, and it was a pleasure speaking with you, and I wish you all the best, and especially you great health and longevity.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I'd like to have you back on again and have a conversation like we just ended with and stuff, because I like to have certain guests come back and have conversational podcasts.
Absolutely. Love it.
And stuff. So you have yourself happy holidays, and God bless you.
God bless you. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye. Well, there you have it. Tonya Williams. Ain't she a sweetheart? Thank you so much, Tonya. You're a very nice lady, very smart, very intellectual, and just all around an awesome lady. And thinking of, you're not Jewish, but I'm thinking of Hanukkah right now. I don't know what the female version of a mensch is, but you are definitely the female version of a mensch. If you like this video, everyone, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, add me as a friend on Facebook, join my Tommy Kovac comedian page on Facebook, follow me on Twitter and Instagram, and all that fun stuff. Well, that's all the time we have this week on Splat from the Past. Until next time, this is Tommy Throwback Kovac saying, there's no shame in living in the past, because the present sucks. Later, dudes!